PCN is brought to you in part by the following underwriters.
Welcome to another edition of PACTV Community News. I'm Brian Sullivan, and tonight we bring you a special Halloween edition of PCN.
We will bring you some legends and stories of hauntings and happenings from Duxbury, Kingston, Pembroke, and Plymouth.
We'll also take you to a family pumpkin festival, and Design Corner brings us some tablescape decorating ideas for the upcoming holidays.
We begin with a spooky story from Duxbury's Sun Tavern restaurant. The Sun Tavern has been featured before on PCN as one of our first local eat segments, but we decided to take a trip back to the Sun Tavern to get a taste of the paranormal this time. Owner Larry Friedman tells PCN of some of the unusual happenings that have occurred and who or what could be behind them.
So the building was built in 1741. It was a home until 1928. The last homeowners were Lysander Walker and Mary Walker. In 1928 it became a tea room, and it's been a restaurant since then. We just recently found out that the building goes back to before 1700. And we thought our resident spirit was Lysander Walker, and it could be, but we also found out that two young girls, Mary and Betty, who were 9 years old, died upstairs of scarlet fever in 1745. But Worcester Paranormal came in, and I've had a lot of paranormal people ask to do things in the building. I've always said no, because in my opinion, I'm just leasing the building. Whoever's here really owns the building. So these people showed up and they were having dinner and they called me over, and they were mature folks, not young kids. They were very mature, loved it, lived it, and breathed it. They came here and set up some recording devices, and it proved to be pretty wild. First, on the recording, we could hear young girls humming in different parts of the restaurant. We also, the guy went downstairs, one of the gentlemen went downstairs, and you can hear him saying on the recording, "I'm down in some sort of changing room." And just as he finished saying, "I'm down in some sort of changing room," you hear a male voice say, "Get out." It's funny because we didn't quite understand young people, young bus people, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds would hear young people talking to them. And we could not figure it out until the Worcester Paranormal came in and found out about these two young girls that died here in 1745. And, you know, my manager's daughter, who was, I'm guessing 17 when she started working here, constantly heard someone calling her name. When we first came here, I've owned the restaurant twice. This is the second time. In 2009, I took it over, revamped it, expanded the bar, opened the kitchen, and we were upstairs. You know, we close the bathroom doors and leave. Next day we come in, and the soap dispenser, there's an automatic soap dispenser, there's soap all over the ladies' room floor. So I said, get another soap dispenser. We got another one, same thing, all over the floor the next day. So I said, you know, maybe they don't want, because we've always known the ladies' room was a hot spot, maybe they don't want the door closed. So leave the door open. Next day, soap all over the floor. I said, leave the heat on. Next day, soap all over the floor. I said, leave the lights, the heat on, and open the door. No more soap on the floor. I can tell you something else that everyone was present for. So I was expediting. I was getting the dishes ready for the servers. We're working at Saturday night. I'm down on the block. We call it the block in front of the open kitchen, and I'm expediting. And all of a sudden, my bartender screams to me, "Larry, Larry, someone's choking." So I come up here, and there's a gentleman, full bar, there's a gentleman at the bar, and he's choking. Just as I get there, whatever was choking him comes out. I said, "Are you all right?" He says, "Yeah, thank you so much." I said, "I didn't do anything." He looks to the woman next to him, and he says, "Thank you." And she said, "I didn't do anything either." And someone whacked him on the back and dislodged whatever was choking him. And to this day, he believes it. We all watched it happen. He thanked everyone around him, and no one touched him.
Recently, there have been rumors flying around about the ghost of a little girl from the 18th century appearing at the Spooner Historical House in downtown Plymouth. According to legend, the little girl's name was Abigail. She died from a tooth infection and now haunts the alleyway. We met up with local historian Donna Curtin from the Plymouth Antiquarian Society. She put those rumors to rest.
This is the Spooner House on North Street in Plymouth. It was built in the 1740s. One family lived in this house for 5 generations, from the 1700s right into the 1950s. And all of those families' possessions, their furniture, their books, their papers, their photographs have stayed here in the house, passed down from family member to family member. The last person to live in this house was James Spooner. He was born here and he died here in 1954, and he left this house to be a museum. His interest was in sharing his family history with the town of Plymouth so that they could learn about what had happened here in the past. And so the stories that we tell are obviously based on the information that James Spooner entrusted to us, all those generations of family possessions. This is Spooner Alley, and this is where the story about Abigail Townsend, the little girl who supposedly has appeared to some people here at the Spooner House, where she showed up. But from the historical perspective, we've looked into it, and we are quite convinced from the documentation available that no one named Abigail ever lived in the Spooner House. Here in the archives rooms, we have hundreds and hundreds of letters and documents, and they tell hundreds of stories about the people that lived here in Plymouth and the people that lived here in this house. And that's the kind of material that we like to work with. Ghost stories don't factor into that material. We don't have any evidence within the Spooner family of any interest in ghosts. We know who lived here in the Spooner House historically. We know their names. We know a lot about their personal lives. We know even what they looked like from their portraiture and the photographs that have survived. And that's the story that we tell when visitors come through the museum. We like to tell you about the people that actually lived here.
PCN recently visited the Mayflower Grove Grill in Pembroke for our Local Eats segment. And while we were there, the owner shared some stories with us on unusual happenings. Incredible images were captured on their security cameras one night, and some interesting faces appear around the kitchen from time to time. Take a look as we examine the mystery.
Hi, we're Karen and David Miglietta from the Mayflower Grove Grill in Pembroke, Mass. And we'd like to talk to you today about a few unusual things that have happened to us here at the Mayflower Grove Grill.
Yes.
The first one, I believe, was the owner of the building showed us some video footage that we just couldn't explain what these lights were, but it was a bunch of orbs floating, dancing around the deck,
disappearing in the grounds and coming up again. And
yeah. So that was the first thing that was a little strange. The next thing that I remember happening was one day, all the employees' phones, and there were probably about 3 or 4 of you working that day, they all went to a different date.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the day, but it was pretty weird because it was
a good 2 years
past. Yeah. So that was very, very strange.
Yep.
And more recently was the incident back in May.
Oh, with the broom.
With the broom, yeah. Right? So it had been a typical busy Sunday morning. The only thing that wasn't typical was the fact that we had been closed the previous day for the Pembroke High School graduation. So it was a busy Sunday morning, and everyone's going back and forth in and out of the kitchen. And I walk in, and I noticed, well, I tripped practically on a broom that was sticking out underneath the sink. And I thought to myself, well, who left this there? No one's been using the broom this morning. Why did it just hit me and nobody else? But I said, okay, put it back, came back out front, spoke to a few more customers, and about a half an hour later, I go back in the kitchen. Again, folks are going in and out. I go in, and now the dustpan is sticking out, and I run into it. And I got a little bruise on my knee. I mean, it was just odd that everybody else had gone back and forth, and no one.
Only got hit.
I was the only one that got hit. So somebody wasn't happy with me, maybe because we closed on Saturday. I don't know, but.
Yeah. The other ones, there are faces. We see faces everywhere in this place. Like we made the muffin. Remember the muffin we made? We had a pistachio muffin, and I make 12 at a time. And this one particular muffin had a face. It had a smiley face and nose and everything. It was uncanny. I've never seen it like that before. And
shadows.
We see shadows. Noises.
Yeah, yeah.
The toilets flush on their own once in a while, and
I have to say
they're not mean. They're very, very happy.
It makes me think twice about being here by myself, though.
There were some times that I was here, and it was like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock when we first started out, and I would hear things, but I never thought that, I just thought it was a new building and, settling and stuff like that. But no, I don't know about that now.
Some of these are unexplainable, that's for sure.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
The Back Roads of the South Shore has put together a bus tour that highlights some of the oldest and most famous graveyards scattered throughout several South Shore towns. One of the stops was at the Miles Standish Burial Ground in Duxbury, America's oldest maintained cemetery. Historians from the Duxbury Rural and Historical Society and the Alden Kindred of America were on site to conduct the tours, and PCN showed up with a camera to take it all in.
We're here in the Miles Standish Burial Ground in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Today, the Back Roads of the South Shore is conducting a bus tour of all the cemeteries on the South Shore, or some of the historic cemeteries. We're expecting about 50 people to come on the bus tour today. As the archivist here for the Duxbury Rural and Historical Society, I deal so much with the documentary evidence of our forefathers, but it is always meaningful to actually come here to the cemetery and be where they were buried and also where they worshipped. We will be talking about the Alden's grave, Miles Standish's grave, which is behind me, the second meeting house that was located adjacent to this cemetery, and learning a little bit about the people who were buried here.
In 1684, John stated, for real love.
I'm here today to talk about the burial site of John and Priscilla Alden, two of the Mayflower passengers and the founding members of the town of Duxbury. And we'll be taking a look at their grave site as well as the cemetery as a whole. His house in its first incarnation. We'll be taking specifically a look at the grave site of Jonathan Alden, son of Priscilla and John. It is the oldest stone in this burial site, and also has a kind of a well-traveled history from the ceremony at his death until it was replaced in the cemetery. It's a very interesting stone, and I'm going to explain some of its history here today.
At this time, people, when they died, there wasn't this address that we typically have today.
Today we have kind of a cross-section of people. We have marketed this event, as well as others we've done, to people interested in grave sites and genealogy. So people that are coming here are looking to learn more about the people that are in these sites, and also some of the family histories.
One of the residents in town said that he could remember a time as a child. I hope that after this day is over, they have a greater understanding of the fascinating cemeteries we have here on the South Shore and some of the amazing people that were buried here. Some really great stories.
Bog Hollow Farm in Kingston has been a family farm going back several generations. Aside from being a working cranberry farm, the family also celebrates an annual family day that includes hay rides, kids' activities, and a huge pumpkin patch. PCN stopped into the event to meet the owner, hear more about the farm, and pick some pumpkins.
This morning we're at Bog Hollow Farm at our annual pumpkin patch weekend. We're doing this pumpkin patch today, and we've been doing it for about 20 years because we are cranberry growers, and there's been a big move in the past several years for cranberry growers to make programs for agritourism where we introduce people more to nature. As you probably know, cranberries are a native crop in the state of Massachusetts. It's one of 3 native berries. And children really need to know that cranberries were here back when the Pilgrims arrived. Native Americans hand-picked them out in the sand dunes of Cape Cod. We're very concerned about making sure that people know what open space is, what open space we preserve, the woods that we have, and about the wildlife that live here. So I created an educational program where school children could come in and they could learn about the cranberry growing and also about the environment around us. We teach the children where their food comes from. Some children think they go to the grocery store and buy their food, but we try to teach them that it takes a lot of work to produce the crop. Kids can come enjoy hay rides, go out to the back field where there is a big maze for them. There's animals, there's a hay tunnel, a hay jump to jump in, and just lots of fun. We have huge amounts of families that come and tell us what a wonderful time they have with their families. So this is why we're happy to do this.
Is there anything?
What started out as a curious interest in the spirit world turned out to be a lifelong calling. Helping those who experience paranormal disturbances in their homes or businesses has become the quest of a paranormal investigator. PCN met up with one from Kingston's Cranberry Coast Paranormal Group to learn more.
What I do is investigate the paranormal. And I'm not saying that I'm a ghost hunter, but what we do is we go into homes and buildings and in cemeteries like this one and just try to get some kind of evidence, whether it be photographic, audio, or even through our own intuition to kind of see if there's something going on, and then we advise people what to do next. I got started actually when I was a teenager. I had an experience. I saw my grandfather's ghost. I was staying with my grandmother and woke up in the middle of the night, and we were standing in the doorway looking at her, very worried and concerned. And I pinched myself because I thought that I was dreaming, but I wasn't. So being a kid, I put the covers up over my head and I went back to sleep, and I never said another word about it. I did some ghost hunting when I was a teenager with my brother in Braintree, where we grew up. And then children came along, life got in the way, and things happened. And then about, I'd say 5 years ago, I started up again. We do a sweep of the location. That's the first thing we do. So we go around with the EMF field tester and look for high spikes of energy. And when we get them, we make sure that it's not something man-made, like a fan or an electric box or electric wiring. And then we also go around with the temp gun. This is a laser temp gun. But we go around, we do a base temperature of the place. We don't use the temperature gauge outside because there's too many fluctuations in like the shade and the sun and the wind and everything, so it wouldn't be accurate if we got a cold spot anyway. And then we grab our audio. We do audio throughout the investigation, and then what I do is I go through it when I get home and listen for any background voices or sounds. And we catch a lot of different things. It's amazing what we catch. It's called a shack hack, and it's nothing but a Radio Shack AM FM radio that's been rewired to scan through all the stations. Spirits can use the energy to actually talk through it and actually say things. The only thing we got out of it was we got this woman doing like a sing-song voice on one of our investigations. I can't say where it was. It was in an old mill in the Bridgewater Triangle. This is one of the equipment things we use besides a regular camera. This is a night vision or IR camera, and we can use this, you know, to get shots. It works within about 10 feet or so. It doesn't really go much more than that. There's other cameras that go further than that, but it can shoot pictures in the total darkness and catch things, so it's a very good tool to have. What I hope, and what my entire group hopes, is that people get peace of mind, because people deserve to live in their homes and not be afraid. So we go in and we do a lot more than other groups do. What we do is we don't just tell them that they've got a problem, that they've got a paranormal problem. We actually refer them places to go, people to go to help them out. So we don't just say, sorry, your house is haunted, bye, have a nice day. We try to help people right to the very, very end, till they find the peace they deserve.
Design Corner brings us some holiday tablescape ideas from Setting the Space.
I'm Sue Shockley, Setting the Space lead designer, and today we're here for PCN's Design Corner. And today we're going to talk about holiday tablescapes. So first we're going to begin with layering, and we're going to layer with either a tablecloth or a nice holiday runner. And then again we want to add, you know, maybe another little layer, a little texture. So we're going to build our tablescape today. All right, and here's another layer. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to actually, instead of putting florals in a container, we're going to actually use our table as our container. So we're going to build a floral arrangement and begin to accessorize this way. Next, we're going to add in our next medium, which is pumpkins, and we're going to use the curve of this garland to just tuck them in. Now we're going to add some height and some sparkle. And the reason why we add height is because it brings interest, and sparkle makes everybody happy. We're bringing candles in that are warm and inviting, and we're just going to tuck them right in. And the nice thing about these are they're flameless and they're safe. Now we're going to put in our placemats, which we're going to add texture and color. Now let's set our table. First we're going to put down our dinner plate and add in our next layer, and we're alternating some colors. You can do that to bring in more interest. And of course everybody loves a nice linen napkin. And let's place our bowl on top. Now we have a nice place setting. Now's a good time to look at your table setting and see, is there anything that you might want to just add in one more finishing touch. And today I think we need a little bit more texture to our beautiful floral arrangement, and we're going to add some winter chestnuts. So we're just going to, there again, tuck them in wherever you think. There's no rhyme or any reason. It's just a matter of how you want to finish this beautiful tablescape. So we're going to just tuck them in. Be creative, gather things from around the house, keep it simple, and you can still have a stunning holiday tablescape. Thanks for watching PCN's Design Corner.
Thanks for watching PACTV Community News. Replay times are listed at pactv.org. Click on the PCM tab to view each complete edition or individual story.
See us on YouTube by searching for the PACTV Community News channel. Also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to receive previews each week with links to all of our stories.
Thanks for watching. Join us next week for another edition, and happy Halloween from everyone at PCN.